science and technology touches everybody's lives. On Life in Science with Pallava Bagla, we speak to one of India's best known virologists. Somebody who's played with viruses for over 20 years. Like I've always said, I promise to take you to places which are very hard to go to. And in this truly Atmanirbhar Bharat story, a deep dive into India's fight against the coronavirus. Welcome to another episode of Life in Science with Pallava Bagla. We take you into the very heart of Indian science and technology. On today's episode, we talk of the most talked about subject, COVID-19 and novel coronavirus testing. Is India doing enough? What are the tests? There is an alphabet soup out there. You have RT-PCR, you have sometimes people confuse say PCR, TPR, true NAT, another NAT and rapid antigen, antibody. What is this test all about? And we take you inside a very special mobile testing lab, a lab called Infectious Testing Lab, the only one full-fledged infection testing lab in India and possibly in the world. I'm standing inside the Translational Health Science Technology Institute. And on today's show, we have with us Dr. Guruprasad Medigeshi. He is a specialist on viruses. For more than 2 decades, he has played around with some of the most dangerous viruses. Today, novel coronavirus is what is occupying his mind. Earlier, dengue, chikungunya, West Nile, Zika, you name it. They've been all part of Dr. Guruprasad's research agenda. Dr. Guruprasad, how difficult is it to test the COVID-19 disease or the novel coronavirus? And since both of us are standing more than 6 feet apart in open air, we are working without masks. When we go inside, we will certainly wear masks. How difficult is it to test?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on the show. In terms of testing, you can broadly categorize the tests into 3 different categories. You said there is an alphabet soup out there. So if you look at the testing, there is nucleic acid based test, there is antigen based test and there is antibody based test essentially. So what you call as RT-PCR, CB-NAT, true NAT, so they are all nucleic acid based tests. What we call as rapid test is an antigen based test. And all this serological tests that we are doing, serosurveillance that everybody talks about is an antibody based test. So these are broadly 3 different categories of COVID-19 testing.
See, today what we are talking about is truly an Atmanirbhar story, because when we started off in January, none of the testing was available.
Yes.
From literally 0 testing to over 1 million tests a day we are doing. Now this is the mobile lab. Tell me a little bit about this mobile lab. Who made it and how do you use it and how is it different from routine labs?
Yes, so as you rightly said, iLab may stand for infectious disease lab. I would say it is an innovative lab because it's one of its kind. So this is a lab which actually goes to people and does testing on the spot. So be it a rural area, peri-urban area or an area which is really very difficult to access, we take this lab and it has all the required infrastructure to do nucleic acid based testing, antigen based testing and antibody based. I don't think there is any other lab of this kind anywhere in the world which is so fully equipped. And thanks to funding by the Government of India, Department of Biotechnology and AMTZ who made the
What
lab.
is AMTZ?
AMTZ is Andhra Pradesh Medtech Zone.
Okay.
So that was contracted to make this lab by DBT. So they have made a fabulous facility, and we have been entrusted with this lab now to run it here in Faridabad region.
And you run it both in urban centers and also in rural
centers. Yeah. So
today we are likely to go to a rural
Yes.
center where you are likely to collect samples
Yeah.
and do some testing.
Yes, we will take you to a remote area in Palwal district, and you will see how the lab functions in a primary healthcare center.
Yeah, whatever remote can mean in Haryana.
Yes.
That is a separate story. But tell me a little bit. Now, you mentioned the tests. Now, very quickly, one after the other, can you start with RT-PCR and tell me about the tests?
Yes. So
One by one.
Yeah, as I said, there are nucleic acid based tests, antigen based tests and antibody based tests. So RT-PCR detects nucleic acid of the virus. So the virus we are talking about, SARS-CoV-2, is an RNA virus. So the test detects RNA in your nasopharyngeal sample. So the sample you collect from
One which is collected in
the
you
nose.
put your head up and you get a sample.
Yes.
Throat or nose.
Throat or nose. So then that will actually collect some of the viruses in your respiratory tract. That is collected in a virus transport medium, and the medium is brought in here into this lab, where people have specialized skills to extract nucleic acid from this sample, and PCR machine detects the nucleic acid by amplification of whatever little amount of
That's
nucleic
RT-PCR.
acid.
What about the others, which is the antigen and
So
antibody?
antigen detects the protein of the virus. So virus is made of a proteinaceous shell. So antigen tests detect the virus per se. So the outer coat of the virus is what we detect, or the outer coat proteins of the virus is what antigen tests detect. When it comes to antibody tests,
An antigen can be done fairly quickly.
Fairly
And
quickly.
it tells you whether you are infected or not.
yes, because that doesn't require amplification like nucleic acid tests.
Correct.
So whatever is there can be detected, and that's the reason why antigen tests are little less sensitive than nucleic acid based tests, because it
And that's what is called the rapid antigen,
Yes.
the RAT test, which
Yes,
is
yes.
becoming so popular.
Exactly.
And
So-
also a little controversial.
little controversial, but I think that is helping our surveillance and contact tracing. So when it comes to antibody based tests, so that actually detects whether you
What
are
is
exposed.
antibody?
Antibody is something that your body mounts as an immune response to any pathogen. So
Okay, meaning it decides to fight
It
with the
decides to
virus, and that is what develops in our body.
exactly. So if you are exposed to a pathogen, your body mounts a response, and that response is through the antibodies. So your pathogen is an antigen, it's a foreign particle, and you make antibody which is binding to that antigen and tries to get rid of it. So antibody based tests will tell you whether you are exposed, whether you are really mounting an immune response. So that generally happens after at least 7 days of exposure.
So, and what is used for serosurveillance? Because that is also something which is becoming increasingly in the minds of people, and as to what population is becoming positive and exposed to the virus.
Yes, so as I said, it is serosurveillance is always done using an antibody based test, because there you are looking at the exposure in the population. So how do you look at exposure? Only by measuring antibody levels. So you measure antibodies that are specific to the virus or bacteria that you are looking at. So here we are looking for antibodies against SARS-CoV-2 in the blood of people.
So the more people we see as seropositive, that means we are heading towards more and more people going towards what would be called community immunity?
Yeah, herd immunity is the right word. Yeah, so that essentially says that the percentage of people who are exposed to the virus is slowly increasing. So which indicates that the virus is probably spreading in the community.
Now we will don a PPE kit.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
We've gone around this particular lab.
Yeah.
I was told this was set up in about a week's time.
Yes.
And then Dr. Harshvardhan inaugurated it.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
how much did it cost? And how well equipped is this?
Well, costing DBT would know, because we were only given the lab to us and we are running this lab. So financial implications, DBT and
That's all
AMTZ
right.
would have discussed.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. But is it fully equipped?
It is fully equipped. So any test, you name it, you can do antigen, antibody, nucleic acid, even blood test can be done in this, sugar levels can be measured. So it is not only for COVID-19 testing. This lab was designed actually to serve as a diagnostic facility for, you name it. If you want to tomorrow test for a dengue or a chikungunya, you can use the same lab.
So it's not going to go waste once the pandemic ends?
Not at all, not at all. So this is a long-term investment, and this is what we need, thousands of such labs actually in India to really improve the healthcare infrastructure.
This is probably the only lab of its kind in the world, as Dr. Guruprasad says, but certainly the only of its kind in India. Now let's go to a location where actual sampling is happening from the population. So we've come to the Amarpur Primary Healthcare Center in rural Haryana, where they do corona testing for patients from this area, and the mobile testing lab, which was there at the Translational Health Science Technology Institute, has already come here, and they do the more sophisticated test inside. Dr. Guruprasad, how often do you bring this van to a rural area?
So we go to different rural setting every day, which is decided by the CMO of Palwal district or Faridabad district. So this place we come once in a while. There are other centers where we routinely go for testing.
Let's go and see the
Yeah.
actual sample collection
Yes.
from a nasal swab in this primary health center. What can we see here, Dr. Guruprasad?
So you can see patients waiting
Yeah?
here. So they have been asked to come here, and they are here for COVID-19 testing. We have our primary healthcare center technicians who are in their PPEs collecting a nasopharyngeal swab. So the antigen testing can be done here, but the samples for RT-PCR is collected and processed in the mobile lab.
So the nasopharyngeal sample is being collected.
Yes.
And they will do an antigen test here, which is
Yes.
a rapid antigen test.
Yes.
And a person who is
Turns out to
turns
be
out
negative.
negative but has symptoms,
Will
their
be
sample
tested.
will be taken to the mobile lab,
Yeah.
where you will do your
RT-PCR.
confirmatory RT-PCR test.
Yes.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Okay, one has heard so much about PPE kits. Now we will don a PPE kit and go into an area. This is what a PPE kit looks like. There will be a pool of sweat once one comes out of it. You can imagine it is a struggle if you have to do this every day and you have to work in this. My hands are perspiring, which is why they are sticking to the glove. This is Pallava Bagla wearing a full PPE kit to go into an area where they handle viruses. And PPE kits are a fully Atmanirbhar story. From having almost no PPE kit manufactured in India, now India is not only meeting its own demands, but is also exporting it. An amazing story of self-reliance in India. Now we are inside India's infectious disease mobile lab. You can see a tiny place, but it is well equipped. And Dr. Guruprasad will show us how they do actual COVID testing. Sir, please show us.
Yes, so when the samples are collected outside, the samples are brought inside in this room. So this is where the sample alley coating happens. So you have VTM tubes which come here, and as you can see, we have 20 samples here lined up.
So we have a person who's sitting inside this cabinet. What is this called, sir?
Yes, so he is Dinesh, and this is a biosafety cabinet which is fitted with HEPA filter and is in compliance with all biosafety regulations of Government of India.
So this is where your live virus comes.
Yes.
And then what do you do here?
So the live virus comes here because we get 2-3 ml volumes. It has to be now transferred to a smaller volume so that we can handle it in our laboratory. That's the first step. So we have samples which are labeled with whatever the patient code it is, and then they are transferred into a smaller Eppendorf tubes. From here, then he will add a buffer which inactivates the virus. So that's a buffer which contains detergent as per the RNA isolation protocol. So the first step is inactivating the virus.
Sure. So once this is done, though, there is no live virus, then you go on and do the actual RT-PCR, and the other test you do is the rapid antigen test.
Yes, as soon as the sample is inactivated, it is brought here in smaller volumes, and this is the microcentrifuge where the samples are centrifuged following multiple steps of the protocol to isolate RNA. So Imran and Dinesh together do this every day for hundreds of samples.
So how do they do?
So the samples that come here is processed at a set speed. So as you can see here, so you keep the tubes here, then you close it, then you start centrifugation. So this pellets down the RNA that is present in the sample, and we line it up here. When the RNA is ready, we set up our RT-PCR in this 96 ml plates. This is the RT-PCR kit.
Show me.
So this is the RT-PCR kit that we are using currently. There are multiple manufacturers, as you know, mostly from India now. So we use one of the RT-PCR kits that is supplied by the government, and we set up our RT-PCR reaction.
Then what happens inside? This is the RT-PCR machine. What happens? How do you load it?
Yes, so this is the RT-PCR machine, and as soon as so this is the RT-PCR machine, and once we set up the reaction, it's kept in here, and it goes in. And we start the experiment. So this is how we start. So you set up the reaction and you start your RT-PCR. So here the RNA amplification takes place, and it takes about 1 hour 40 minutes for each run. So you can process up to 45-50 samples. When we start at around 9 o'clock, by 11:30 we start our RT-PCR. So we get our results by close to 2:30, 3 o'clock.
So now, assuming that this run has been done, the run has been completed, how do we know whether a person is negative, positive? How do the results show?
So this is how you see the results. So now this sample, this experiment had about 41-42 samples here. So you can see here, whichever samples are positive will give us a clear amplification plot. So we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, close to 12-13 people here, samples which are positive for RT.
The one which is going up there, that is positive, and the ones which are below are negative.
Yes, so you set a threshold here, and anything above that threshold and which shows a clear sigmoidal curve is considered as a positive sample.
All right.
So this is where you get the CT values, the CT values that everybody talks about.
And also this shows clearly whether a person is carrying the infection at that moment or not.
Yes.
So this was the RT-PCR machine, and it shows so many people in this particular run tested positive, and this is one way of testing COVID-19, which is the RT-PCR.
So this is the antigen test, which is much shorter, and as it says, it is rapid. So it takes about 15-20 minutes.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
There is another way of doing testing,
Yes.
which is using the rapid kit.
So this is the rapid antigen kit that we are using currently. So this is the antigen test, which is much shorter, and as it says, it is rapid. So it takes about 15-20 minutes from the time you collect samples to get results here.
Okay, let's do what you do in this.
Yeah. So Imran can show how this is done.
But you keep
Yes,
explaining.
Yes,
sir.
yes. So this the kit has cartridge and nasal swab and the buffer, which is required for inactivation of the sample, and the nozzle and the small tube into which the sample is collected. So you open up one of the swabs, and you need your extraction buffer tubes.
So right now we are looking at what is
Antigen
called a
test.
rapid antigen test. How long does it take to give a result?
It takes 15 minutes, 20
Wonderful.
minutes.
So it's much faster. That takes hours and this takes 15 minutes.
Yes. So
So
this is how a cartridge looks, and this is where you add your sample.
All right.
And you detect a control band and a virus antigen presence band. So we set it up here like this, and then we need samples. Again, it is done with a freshly isolated VTM sample. So you need buffer. The buffer is inside, right? Yeah, buffer is inside. Yeah. So sample is collected with this nasopharyngeal, this nasal swab. So this is inserted into the nasopharyngeal area, and then you put it into this, which has an inactivation buffer. You mix it very well. You can remove it or you can cut it off, and then this goes inside, and then you fit in a nozzle, and then you add a drop of your sample into that area.
that's it.
That's it.
Wow. So much more easier than RT-PCR.
Of course, yes.
And then it will show us positive or negative depending on what is the condition.
Yes. So you can see it is slowly, the liquid is now migrating on the strip.
Okay, yes, I can see a slightly pinkish
Yes.
color which is rising.
Yes. So we usually do this in batches. So about 20-40 samples are done continuously. You keep adding, and then you keep monitoring the completion of the run. So the control sample always lights up, showing that your kit is working fine.
Okay.
If the test sample lights up, you are positive.
That means it will not go, if it's negative, it will stay at T.
If it is negative, you will not see a line at T. You will see now when the line develops at control sample, you will see a small streak or a band,
Okay.
which suggests that the kit is working fine. So this is the antigen. So the AG stands for antigen. So you are detecting the viral protein here.
And this also actually shows whether you are infected or not.
Yes.
So we are waiting
We are waiting. We are waiting.
and
So
waiting.
the whole strip will become pink.
It will go right to the top.
Yes, yes, yes. Do you see a band there near C?
I can hardly see anything thanks to the fogging. I can see a band, yes. Yes, there is a slightly darker colored band near
Yes,
C.
it will become darker eventually in the next
Okay.
5-10 minutes.
Okay.
So this
And a band should appear also at T.
at T if you are positive, because that's the test sample.
Okay.
So this sample was negative. So do you see the band now clearly?
Yes, there is a band which can be seen. All right. So what you see is there's a clear band at C which is a control, meaning the kit is working.
Yeah.
And since at T, which is the test, there is no band, it shows that this particular sample was negative, meaning
Yes.
it had no COVID-19 test antigen in it. So we can safely say this one is negative.
Yes.
And if somebody is negative on antigen and has symptoms, then one has to run a RT-PCR.
Yes, because the specific sensitivity of this kit is little lower than RT-PCR. If it is positive, clearly they are positive. They don't need to be repeated again on RT-PCR. If it is negative, you still would like to confirm by RT-PCR because that's much more sensitive than this.
All right. So there you saw inside this infectious diseases lab, a mobile lab where RT-PCR tests are done, a rapid antigen test is done, and this can go to any remote area and a test can be conducted.
And behind you is the antibody testing machine. Yeah. So if you are involved in testing antibodies, this is the machine.
Okay. And you can do more than one test here. Right now being used for COVID-19 test, but it can also be used for dengue and for other testing and blood samples. So this was India's mobile infectious diseases diagnostics lab where COVID-19 testing is happening. A truly Atmanirbhar Bharat story. In 2019, to a single lab, when the infection started or the pandemic began, to over 1600 labs across India. This is thanks to the hard work of scientists like Dr. Guruprasad and his team and the Indian industry. This, in a way, signifies when Indian scientists are given a mandate and given the resources, they deliver. Dr. Guruprasad, thanks a lot for speaking to us.
Thank you, sir.
Both of us are wearing PPE kits and we are inside the infectious disease mobile lab, and this is a unique look inside the mobile facility for COVID-19 testing. Keep watching Life in Science with Pallava Bagla on India Science, and we will take you to incredible journeys and discoveries of India's intense capabilities in science and technology. Thanks a lot for watching.